right, let's dig right in.
All right.
So good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Jeff.
Hey, thanks for coming out on a really nice, almost like the first day of summer. I know you'd rather be barbecuing, so I appreciate the time coming here to learn the science and the techniques of organic lawn care. So I'm Jeff Swano. I'm the owner and founder and president of Dig Right In Landscaping. And before I started the landscaping company, I was an environmental economist. And what that does is that is someone who knows that it's cheaper to keep the planet clean than it is to dirty it and get it cleaned up later, in a nutshell. So I did the corporate thing for a few years, 10 years, and got out of the rat race and followed my passions, which was canoeing and camping and gardening, and then some ecosystem restorations. I was helping to put our forests back in shape. I helped co-found the Salt Creek Watershed Network, a river advocacy group, and the Wolf Road Prairie as well. And so I put all those interests into a landscaping company, which is basically, we have a motto that's restoring the earth 1 yard at a time. Because when I was a nonprofit, one day we got a new government and all the money dried up for all the ecosystem things I was working on. And I thought, well, let's do this by the marketplace and see if we can still do it. And so here we are, 18 years later. And that also brings up, when I first started Dig Right In, we used to do lawn care the old-fashioned way, the chemicals, right?
Right.
I remember walking into the warehouse one spring and that smell of those bags. They were like laughing at me. They were pointing at me and going, "You're a hypocrite. You know, we're the chemicals and we're the, you know, you got to do this another way." We were just hearing about compost and compost tea. So I said I kicked all those bags out of the warehouse. I lost 80% of my lawn care business. But that was 2007, and since then, we've been really, Dig Right In, it's been learning the science and the strategies. We've been doing research and development, and the things that I'll be sharing with you today is everything we know, and I believe that it's really state of the art because I care so much about getting the chemicals out of our lawn. So that's a little bit about me. I do like to know where y'all are from, so let's see, any Oak Parkers? And then Chicago? And River Forest? Okay, anywhere else? Elmhurst?
Westchester.
Westchester? They come from far and wide to hear me
Elmwood.
speak, and I don't blame them. So I do try to make this entertaining. And as we go along, it doesn't have to be like a movie where you have to wait to the end for the credits and to talk. Well, if you have a question as I'm going, raise the hand. Let's talk about it then, because it's kind of a particular order. And I know this is from 2 to 4, but we'll be out way before then. So we'll still have time for that barbecue.
That's right.
Hey Jeff, you said you lost a lot of your chemical-based landscape or lawn care. Have you seen it? Have you started to see the shift where?
Oh yeah, about almost a year later, as we were getting into it, only because we're like the only ones in the neighborhood that have been doing it. Yeah, so. But
So
thanks.
it's good. So it's good for you all.
It's good, right? And it's good.
You're cornering the market. You're cornering the market.
Well, yeah, but I wish I could do more, right? That's what we're trying to do. And now you guys are going to learn to do this at your home. So what I'll be talking about is also DIY, so that you can learn and do this. You don't need us for everything. All right, so any other questions before I get started? Great. Okay. So,
Hey, it's Augusta.
yeah. That's not far from wrong.
The best.
How did we get to this? The pursuit of perfection, right? Man versus nature. The road to victory. We're going to get this one way or another. So, but you know what? You ever hear the girls going, you know, like this is, I want to go out and get my lawn. This is a guy's thing, right? And it's kind of interesting how we got there. But it is pretty much a pursuit of perfection. It comes through marketing that this is achievable. They don't tell you the downsides, but they do tell you it's quick and easy.
Well, my dad used to say, "Get off the lawn," right? I mean, I think it comes from how a lot of us were raised, right? I mean,
Right, we didn't know, and we didn't know. And up till when I quit, it was still not, obviously there was an alternative. But we've been going after this image in our lawns for a long time now. And how did it get to that? So, on the left and the right, back in the 1700s, the lawn was becoming popular in Europe for the aristocrats and the very rich, and it was a symbol of their status, because back then they didn't have lawnmowers, right? They had servants to cut with scissors, sometimes goats and sheep, but it was very much a status symbol from the late 1800s, 1700s. We kind of feel that way today almost, just a little bit, that, you know, to have that perfect lawn is, you know, some status in the neighborhood, right? Then in the turn of the century, the cities were getting really crowded and hot, and people were looking for a way out of all this urban buildup and the population. So city planners started putting in parks with lawn space, and it also became a symbol of being able to get away from the day-to-day rigors and congestion of city living. So we start seeing city planners come up with lawns in our urban areas. Then after World War II is when it really became the guys' thing. I mean, look at this picture right here. The guys are having a beer around the mower.
I hope they're done mowing.
The ladies they're not mowing, but I
I
gotta
hope
talk
they're
about
done
it.
with the lawnmower.
Well, they're done with
They
that.
said.
Grab a beer, and the ladies are in the back doing, you can't even tell.
Having tea.
Yeah, sewing or something. And what's really important about this is you start to see another cultural shift, that in the post-war era, the lawns were symbolizing this post-war era of the new suburban sprawl, the new life. We made it through the war, we're the best. And the golf courts, the golf tournaments started getting shown on TV in color, where they were using a color lens to make it look even greener.
They didn't tell us about that.
No, they didn't. So completely false image to be going after that's been put into our brains right back here. And in fact, after the war, there was a lot of surplus chemicals. Okay, and that's how that got into the agricultural business. They're like, we got these chemicals, you can apply them to agriculture and provide 3 basic nutrients. And so we went from bombs to ChemLawn, more or less. So when Timothy McVeigh blew up the federal building in Oklahoma City, he used fertilizer, bags and bags of fertilizer.
We didn't know that.
Right, so this is how that happened. And it was because of that and the agribusiness that we kind of got pushed into this as the way to do things. Yes, but the signs, they are a-changing. Here's some of the new ones. You know, it used to be this, right? Keep off. 48 hours, that's 2 days. Who's keeping the kids off and the dogs off with 2 days of spraying? But that's in the fine print. This is the important part. But now we're doing this, right? Keep on. And that's the hope for this future now. And we see these coming up, right? Good.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so let's go over traditional lawn care. It has its pros and its cons. We'll go over the pros. Well, it's definitely fast acting. You know, those chemicals get right to work. It's very convenient. You just walk over to the hardware store, rip open a bag, pour it into the canister that's going to spread it out. You don't have to read the instructions.
You'll have to read about the toxicity in it.
Oh yeah, if a little's good, a lot is great. Spread it off, very convenient. It's effective. It does the job. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And it appears inexpensive, which is because of its production. Long story, a different presentation. But there's also some bad sides to it, and I'm pretty sure we're aware of this for the most part. What's interesting is it comes from natural gas production, which is all very popular in Russia and the Middle East. So a lot of the chemicals are made there, the synthetic fertilizers, pesticides and herbicides. They're transported here. That's a lot of shipping and gas. It is toxic to plants, fungi, insects, everything. It's a chemical, and if it's an herbicide, it's intended to kill plants. If it's a pesticide, it's intended to kill the bugs. And if it's a fertilizer, it's basically only providing those few nutrients that are on the bag, NPK, 3 nutrients, and that is actually all salt-based. So as they put down more and more chemicals, you're adding salt to the soil, and most organisms, they dry up. It's not healthy. They don't live in a salty environment, and so we end up sterilizing the soil with overuse. So then what happens without any microorganisms in the soil to feed the plants, the grass becomes very dependent on this chemical application with 4 steps every year. There's no food there come this time of year for the plants to uptake. They are waiting to be fed the chemical feeding. Does that make sense? We got that?
Yeah.
So it's kind of this system that started getting out of hand. Those limited nutrients, right? Could you imagine if your diet was just 3 vitamins, right? So those plants, we're only feeding the root, the flower, and its growth. So that's all we're putting in with that NPK. And like I said, you will apply till you die, because those plants are counting on that next application coming in as long as it hasn't rained a lot and washed off the residual chemicals into our waterways. So what this is showing is the dead zone at the Gulf of Mexico. Who's heard of the dead zone? Right. Okay. So it comes from agricultural and urban runoff, but those chemicals are part of that runoff and that agriculture. So that's why we're trying to stop that 1 yard at a time. This dead zone means not only that, but as the water runs off the surface into here, it would be the Des Plaines River, goes into the Illinois River, the Mississippi, and on down, that as those contaminants are going downstream, we have higher drinking water costs downstream. In agricultural areas, these chemicals get into groundwater as well, so again, affecting our drinking water supplies. So it's increasing the cost. And these are called downstream costs, because not only that, as chemicals are released in the environment, other cancers happen to people not necessarily playing on the lawn. And all those costs go to us to fix. It's not paid by the person who put the chemicals down. Oh, and now, look at this, herbicide resistance. Just like the drug resistance in some bacteria, we're finding that we have to design and manufacture harsher and harsher chemicals to kill those weeds, kill them all dead, because they're starting to have a resistance to the herbicides we already are using. So we're getting a little bit out of hand. Any questions on the pros and cons of traditional lawn care?
Talk about NPK. Is that nitrogen, potassium,
And phosphorus. Yes. Yeah, so and that's it. Okay. All right, so another few things about traditional lawn care. So here's Chester. What's he doing? Applying till he dies. He's out there with his 4-step, wearing nothing but sandals. So oblivious to the situation that he's exposing himself to. Lawns, by their nature, whether organic or traditional care, they are water intensive. It is the most irrigated crop in America that is not eaten. Yeah, we're watering. So then here's Timmy. So he's out every weekend pushing the mower. People are applying the pesticides, herbicides. Then there's all the raking. If you leave one leaf on there, right, doesn't it just kill the lawn? Isn't that weird how that works? Unless you want to kill the lawn and you leave the leaves down, it survives. Anyway. And then I like this. Every chemical and every fertilizer bag has this nifty little label for you. Yes, it says, keep out of the reach of children. And then we go and we spread it on our parks and our ball fields and kind of ignore that part. But listen, we've been doing this for 70 years, so it's the 70-year anniversary of traditional lawn care. So maybe we have time to turn this around.
Yes.
Any other questions or thoughts on traditional? Does anyone have a favorite traditional lawn care?
Roundup.
Roundup. Oh, well, that's killing everything.
Oh,
So,
edging. Edging is always.
edging. Yeah. Yeah, I should put that picture up too because. Then there's these little fun facts. Let me just see if any are pretty cool. So here it is, the largest irrigated crop. They're using 600 gallons of water to grow 1,000 square feet, which is roughly an Oak Park lawn. The lawnmowers, oh my gosh. So that technology dates back to the picture from the 50s almost. They haven't improved a lawnmower engine until you get to electric. So we're burning gas to the tune of 800 million gallons a year. And look at this, in 1 hour, a lawnmower can produce as much air pollution as driving a car for 100 miles because that hasn't changed. There's been no marketplace push for
Emission control.
yeah, right, and better mileage on my gas. Well, electric is coming at least.
Yeah.
That's getting there.
Yes.
And here we go, 40,000 tons of pesticides go on the lawns annually. And a pesticide is what kills bugs and weeds. Okay? And then going back to this picture, wherever the EPA has tested any surface body of water, they have come up positive with these chemicals in all the samples they collect. All right, so here's a fun example of some of the traditional lawn care techniques we use that are like, what are we missing here? So see if you can follow along. So the homeowner, in a few weeks, watch this, go driving around in the parkways, the dandelions will start showing up, and then they go out and they see it, and it's time to get the herbicide going. So they go out and they spray it, and the plant immediately goes, because these are effective, right? So it goes, but it goes, I'm dying. And puts it into defensive mode, curls right up. All the homeowner sees are the dead leaves in there. The next thing you know, the dandelion is burst open with the seeds because it knows it's under a threat. It has the ability to quickly do what it was here for. What do we call this? Seeds. We call it next year's crop. Guaranteeing we get to sell more herbicide next year. Plenty of seeds for next year. And we don't even realize that we're doing this. So you'll see it now, coming up soon. So, I don't know, is that something you want to keep track of?
Yeah, I didn't know that they did that. So how long does it take for them to shrivel and make the seeds?
A day or two.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah, I've been noticing it for a while, and it's amazing how well that plant. But I know what people see. They see the wilting of the leaves, and they think they got it. They never really see the reproduction.
So if we pick it, will it not reproduce and come back the next year if we pick it up?
Correct. That sounds like an organic technique. She asked, so if we pick the flower, does that mean it won't come back next year? I'm like, yes, but we're not talking about organic care yet.
Oh.
That's, but she's on a
On
good.
to a good thing.
Yes. So that's one example. Here's another one. Who sort of grubs? Yeah, we all know the grubs, right? So the way that works is homeowner sees the grub damage, runs out, grabs a bag of Grub-X, tears the bag open, pours it out. Again, a little's good, a lot is better. But the way this chemical works is it goes into the plant. The plant takes up the chemical into its vascular system so that the grubs, which eat the roots and disconnect the root from the plant, that's why the grass dies. So they eat the poison in the plant, and now we have another unintended consequence. What else tends to eat the grass in your yard?
Rabbits.
Pets? Kids, maybe? Rabbits?
Oh, sorry, you just sold a lot of Grub-X.
I know. What about, well, no, we're going to try and get the hawks in here.
The hogs eat the rabbit.
Well, we have organic ways of doing this without having to pollute the environment and get it in the food chain. Because now that the grubs have eaten the poison, they're not exactly dead yet. They are still squirming around, and here come the skunks, the birds, the food chain is coming for this, and it gets into the food chain, right? So it bioaccumulates, and the lawn is actually still damaged when you see this. And we'll talk about the grubs a little bit more coming up. So year after year in a traditional lawn care, we're constantly putting in resources that we think are the cheap and expensive. We're not aware of the downstream costs or the environmental issues that are happening. And so what I like to say is, as you invest in your lawn, all that money, this is kind of what you end up getting. Is it's not producing for you. You're just putting the money in to keep the facade up.